So now, Mastertapes, BBC Radio 4's music series in which John Wilson talks to leading artists about career-defining albums. This week he meets the band Manic Street Preachers. Part 1 was broadcast last night, but now we rejoin John with Manic Street Preachers and the audience at Maida Vale Studios.
In the first part of this special double A-side edition of Mastertapes, I talked to Nicky Wyatt, James Dean Bradfield and Sean Moore of the Manic Street Preachers about the writing and recording of their third album, The Holy Bible. It's a lyrical and musical expression of This is Yesterday by the Manic Street Preachers from a Holy Bible album, and you can hear all of these recordings, full versions of the songs, on the Mastertapes pages at the Radio 4 website. So how were these deeply personal, often explicit and troubling songs received when they finally left the studio? And let's have another question from the audience. This one comes from Chris Morley. Chris.
Was your record company fully aware that you wanted to move away from the sound and the direction of the previous album, Gold Against the Soul? Or was there an awkward moment once the album had been recorded where you had to sit down with the record company representatives and play them the record?
No, they were just really good.
I mean, we just
really?
just met our boss, Rob Stringer, this morning. There was a story he told us just about 4 months back that you'll probably remember better than me.
Well, he said it was up for grabs whether we were going to get dropped or not.
Yeah.
It was down to 3 people, wasn't it? And one wanted us dropped, but he gave an impassioned speech saying one day...
There was a vote within the record company office then. You aware at all that a record company is having discussions about your future in this?
I don't think we were aware of that one. We were aware that it might be, on the horizon, but we kind of thought we were so good it wasn't going to happen to us. Rob Stringer was down in the studio, and he was actually joking, saying, "Yeah, Horses and Chains, they'll be chanting that on the Stamford Bridge terraces. It's catchy." But he was just saying that kind of like, he utterly got what we were doing. Right. He was the one that convinced us to have our main advertisement in the Holy Bible was the center spread of all the lyrics. That was our boss, so he was really in for giving art a chance, if you could call it.
Yeah, and imagery has always been, as we've already said, so important to this band, and the clothes and the typeface even, and the album sleeve art, and the Jenny Savile painting. Jenny Savile, an artist who had been collected by Charles Saatchi this time, and the painting of an obese woman seen from, and it's an enormous painting actually in real life, yeah. And there it is on the front cover of the album, seen as a triptych, seen from 3 perspectives. And on the question of imagery, here's another question from the audience. Dougie Craig has travelled from East Kilbride to be at Maida Vale today. Dougie. Wow.
The image of the Manic Street Preachers at this time was almost paramilitary, with your army issue combat gear and balaclavas. Did you feel as if you were waging a personal war, and if so, against what or who?
I think some of the lyrics had the ability to make me feel like that we were aesthetically and politically up against everybody else. I don't know if I'd go far as war, but we liked the idea of presenting this united front, that there was something behind what we were doing.
And there was a sense of discipline behind the band as well.
Yeah, there was.
Yeah, we'd read all the sort of Dexy stories of Kevin Rowland, must go for 6-mile runs in the morning and wear the same clothes. And yeah, there was a metaphorical war, shall we say, against everything around us. We enjoyed that. It didn't last for long because you've got to be incredibly strong to do it.
I practiced for 2 months the self-realised philosophy of denialism. where I wouldn't drink or...
Denialism.
Denialism.
Not
I
nihilism,
remember that.
denialism.
It lasted for about 2 months.
At the end of Gold Against Soul, we looked at the Bunnymen, really, in Apocalypse Now era, and we, you know...
It was our Heart of Darkness, really.
Yeah.
We were going up the river.
You were wearing a beret a lot, I think,
yeah,
weren't
yeah.
He was United Nations.
United Nations with the Soviet star, just to give it a little bit of balance.
And Dougie in the audience mentioned the balaclava. There was an episode of Top of the Pops where you played, I think you were playing faster, James, and it prompted the biggest number of complaints, 25,000 complaints, because you were wearing a balaclava. A balaclava that read James across the forehead. It's quite a cute gap.
Which is now on a teapot in our studio.
Apparently, a lot of the complaints are about the fire.
Right.
And we had these big poles with
flame.
plumes of flame, of naked flame or whatever, you know.
Right.
But it's an amazing performance, you know, and it did feel dangerous.
Well, we've let you down by not wheeling in the flamethrowers for this edition of Mastertapes. But, I mean, in terms of that sound, it was the imagery representing the sound as well, James, wasn't it? Because here you are playing these stripped-down versions. But maybe also you can give us a sense of the sound that you were generating through your amp, because there's a very harsh, metallic sound that you're creating with your electric guitar very often. So what were you doing?
I had the rhythm of how perhaps the lyrics should be sung in my head. And I just remember just locking into it being a rhythm that could be similar to The Light Pours Out of Me by Magazine.
Ah, yeah.
Which I absolutely love, the guitar riff. And, you know, so I was a fanboy, I completely admit it, and so Walking Abortion goes... Now there is a similarity there. There is a kind of, you know, they kind of share the same kind of rhythms, and that was me just saying. Yeah, I realised that this was going to be a post kind of punk feel to it.
But it's interesting is that you said when you were first knocking the songs into shape as a band, you would be sitting there in the studio with a couple of acoustic guitars. But when you were initially looking at the lyric, very often you would be writing with the electric guitar, and it was riff-driven then. You were responding directly to the lyrics, the words, the structure, through these riffs.
Again, kind of, you know, the lyrics to If White America... And they scared the living daylights out of me, to be honest. I was like, how the hell am I ever going to sing that? Images of perfection and then a neighbour, you know. But I did sing it like that as a joke to myself, and I thought, wow, that's amazing. It feels a bit like West Side Story or something. It's kind of like...
Give us a burst of that. I mean,
I never revealed all these things to you, kind of thing. It's Maura's fault. He was introducing me to all this kind of music.
Sean, you were into the musicals, were you?
I mean... I think for me, I got to get myself into that sort of frame of mind. So it was listening to Public Image Limited, listening to Magazine, listening to Wire and 154, even early Banshees, you know, The Scream, all those sort of post-punk albums, really.
And there's an angular quality to those albums, a discordant...
You know, I want to call it avant-garde rock. You know. This
is very interesting. I want you to kind of go deeper on the idea of If White America Told the Truth One Day being inspired by West Side Story.
Well, just that kind of...
Go on, show us how it goes on the guitar.
Thing. But it was... But I wanted a completely horrible, dark, viscous version of it, basically. So, you know, it's...
Sharks and the Jets, isn't it?
A tiny bit. It's a tiny bit. For me, in my silly head, I just saw drama in the lyric, and I saw kind of like a tableau of just disagreement in America. Right. You know, the haves and the have-nots.
And there's a sense of lyrical disagreement all the way through. As we say, it is a provocative album. The album finishes with a song PCP, which I think you can play as a version of. That's quite a confusing lyric. How did you interpret PCP when you first read it, which is about political correctness, apparently?
I saw it as connected to Archives of Pain in a strange kind of way. Obviously, in Archives of Pain, he was saying, don't assume that I believe certain things are from the left. I believe in some justice in life and some kind of dignity and some kind of scientific probe into problems. And with PCP, I saw it as him just slightly taking his badge off and saying that hard-driven, classic Labour socialist kind of attitude that came out of the valleys is softening up. We're not quite fit for purpose at the moment.
It seemed to be, Nicky, within that lyric that he's saying that political correctness is a form of control. Was Richie very much a libertarian in that respect?
As long as everyone believed in his rules, yeah. No, he was. He was a kind of really sweet and gentle soul a lot of the time. Incredible gentleness between us. I think he did reach a different plateau with this record where he tackled far bigger issues than me. You know, undoubtedly, I would still be raging against the Holy Bible not getting the Mercury nomination to this day.
Well, I was going to say I was following the lyrics on the A4 sheet of paper in front of me, which is absolutely full, and I could barely read fast enough. I don't know how you get them all out. PCP by Manic Street Preachers. You can hear full versions of all the songs they're playing here on Mastertapes at the website. On the 1st of February 1995, Richie Edwards left a London hotel, drove to his Cardiff apartment, and then he disappeared, and his car was found near the Severn Bridge. Nicky, when were you told that he was missing? What was your first reaction?
Something I prefer to block out, to be honest. James was supposed to be going to America with him, wasn't you? And Martin, our manager, called us up as soon as anyone knew that something was amiss. I just felt a mixture of kind of extreme panic, just a nagging feeling, really, that something was wrong.
Mm. So, James, if you were supposed to be going to America, I mean, the fact that he had missed his plane, then that meant that there was something wrong.
Yeah, we were sitting in the same hotel, and obviously it was me. I was waiting in the lobby, and I had to go knock on the door because he wasn't turning up. And, got a porter to let us in, and obviously, not there. So, obviously talked to Rat Company and Martin. They said, go to America, I'm sure it'll be fine, kind of thing. So I did, and kept calling back, and nothing had changed. Mm. So kind of like, I felt I shouldn't have been there, kind of thing. But, there was no way of knowing which direction we were going in at that point. And we had just come off the back of doing some demos at a place called House in the Woods down in Surrey, which eventually became some of the songs for Everything Must Go. So, we'd had a good time. We'd done Small Black Flowers in the Sky, played in Kevin Carter on the acoustic.
No Surface.
No Surface, Whole Feeling as well was done there. And I remember driving into the car park of the MC Hotel, and we'd been playing the demos all the way from House in the Woods. It was just me and Richie in the car, because obviously we were going to America the next morning. I said, which is your favourite song? And he said, Small Black Flowers by a mile. That was his favourite demo.
Which, of course, then appeared on the next, on Everything.
Yes, it did, yeah.
Everything Must Go.
That's as much as there is to tell,
Yeah. And you say, Nicky, you don't like to think about it. Can you block it out? I mean, is that something you have done?
Well, I just thought about it so long. It's kind of so self-defeating, really, to go through. I think I have to rewind a bit, really, to the last Astoria shows, when we smashed everything up. The last shows we played with Richie, that was a pretty ominous batch of shows to be part of.
Why? There was a lot of anger and frustration in the air.
I think it was the only time the four of us weren't getting on that particularly well. It was a real heavy atmosphere around everything. We'd been touring with Suede and Therapy. Richie had obviously had treatment and stuff, and
he'd been to the Priory by that time.
Priory, he'd been in Whitchurch in the hospital in Cardiff initially, and felt such a relief to smash all our gear up. I mean, I know some people here were at those shows. We were getting nosebleeds all the time.
On stage?
On stage. We weren't in David Cronenberg film, don't worry. No. But all those Astoria shows, we were getting nosebleeds every night. It was just bizarre.
I don't know if the frequencies were so loud. And it just turned into an orgy of self-destruction. It started off with Richie, I think, sort of piling into you in the kit.
Yeah. Jumped into the drum kit, and then I pulled down the lighting tower, and that was it.
Okay. And then I remember looking around thinking, oh, brilliant, I'm joining in this. And they have that Vision James with a Father Christmas hat on at the end.
Just playing a bass pedal, bass drum pedal into open space. Just thinking, I hope my guitar hasn't gone.
And then we did that great session, a really productive session. We were due to Sport Sponge, was it?
It was Sponge.
On this massive American tour. And there was, the American company had remixed Holy Bible. Sounded really good. Didn't have quite, perhaps, the post-punk charm of the UK one, but it was tastefully done. Yeah. And they were giving it a push, We were getting tour support and doing this thing. And I have to say, just never felt like we were going. For me, I've always got my suitcase sort of packed 3 weeks up in advance and everything sorted and everything, hair dyed, haircut, right amount of pants, socks, you name it. But I never did it. I didn't think Richie was going to disappear. I just never felt like we were going to do that to her.
So how long after his disappearance did you have to accept that he wasn't coming back?
I just don't know. I actually don't go into that thought.
Really.
I really don't. You kind of... The most kind of recurring question we have is always about closure. A kind of Americanized version that somehow means you can move on and forget about everything. And it's not particularly something I want to do, And obviously, he's an amazing rock star. He's a great friend. He was also someone's son, Graham and Sherry's son, and he was Rachel's brother. He's a member of a family. So I never actually think in those terms, really. The only thought we did was was Design for Life was the thing that kept us going.
Yeah. Did you, at that time, consider splitting the band? Did you think this is the end, James?
I got to admit, I never really thought of us not having each other to depend upon, or just actually not being able to play music with each other. And I was just thinking we could carry on with each other, because I suppose the idea of just like the band not being there scared the hell out of me.
Yeah. So you did make that decision to carry on, and in a way, Nicky, that meant a new shift in the division of labour within the band, because you automatically became the chief lyricist. But as James has said, you had already been working on some of the demos. You had Kevin Carter, and you had, I guess, the title
Richie
track.
had written Kevin Carter. I'd written No Surface. Lyrically, I'm talking here, and he'd written Small Black Flowers, and I had tons of lyrics stored up. I mean, we're working at a ferocious pace. When you think Generation Terrace was 92, Holy Bible was 94. I know James wouldn't say this because he's way too humble, but undoubtedly the tone of the record is Richie's album, but James worked unbelievable hours. He's kind of the voice on this album. It's never sounded like that again. The way it reacts with the guitar, the different sounds on Faster, he does... It's as much his record in many ways as Richie's, I have to say that musically. He was working till 4 a.m. every night.
It's one of the best times of my life. I had a great time. It was.
He did like. I noticed he did like you when me and Sean would go off after Sean would sort of commute home.
And the band would treat me to like a Marriott hotel once a week.
Right.
Because I was sleeping every night at my mum and dad's house.
You were sleeping at your mum and dad's house when you were recording the Holy Bible? Yeah. Was this because of the split with the girlfriend?
Oh, no, I just didn't have a pot to piss in, So I had nowhere else to go.
Right.
Yeah,
Sean, I guess you were rented in Bristol, wasn't you?
I was sharing rooms with my girlfriend who's at university. Yeah. So it wasn't costing me anything.
I mean, we hadn't made any money.
I've made up since, don't worry.
Sharing rooms with a girlfriend at university. I mean, you're recording your third album. Yeah. I mean, by any standard, you're a rock star.
Money on videos. Videos and equipment.
We were on £200 a week, I think. Just about.
250.
Right.
And that was a month.
Yeah.
$250 a month.
It went up to £200 a week.
Yeah.
Nicky, you say that the album, in your mind, is characterised very much by James's voice and that vocal delivery. So was it very important when you moved on and started recording Everything Must Go that would sound very different? Because it signals an intention to move on, doesn't it? The size of the record. And lyrically, it's the sense of pride and resilience as well.
Oh, yeah. I'm kind of Richie's biggest fan as a lyricist. I absolutely adore the places he went to. I could never go to those places. I kind of read them. They give me a strange sense of comfort because they are so brave, more brave than I could ever be. And the thing I wanted to avoid straight away was trying to, do a pastiche of that. And I wanted to kind of give James a chance to breathe singing, and the lyrics I were coming up with just obviously rooted in a bit more social history, a bit more kind of social reality, I guess. Yeah. I kind of really tried to steer clear of becoming a really bad version of Richie, which is where I would have been if I'd tried to copy, because I just consider his lyrics real genius.
Well, we have time for a final question before we wrap it up, and this one comes from Jane Morley from London. Jane.
Are there any aspects of being in a rock band that get easier as you reach middle age?
James.
Yeah, I think recording becomes easier. You definitely take so many less takes, especially when I'm singing. I used to be quite very finicky. I remember singing the Holy Bible in the studio, and I would do like 12 takes, on a lead vocal just because a couple of syllables were out.
You wouldn't know it.
You could probably, I could probably nail the entire album in 2 days now. You're just singing it quite easily. I think you do get better. Yeah. I think you take failure on the chin a bit easier. Well, I do. I don't think Nick does.
Let's move to Nick in a minute. But Sean, what about you? Is it easier now than it was?
Well, obviously, it's a lot easier with the hotels. And the fact that we've got somewhere to go home at night,
You're not sleeping in a student dormitory anymore.
Exactly. But yeah, the recording process is, far easier. We know what we're doing now, hopefully anyway.
Yeah. And Nicky, you have been talking recently about having overcome something of a midlife crisis as a rock star, wondering publicly whether it was becoming of a man in his mid-40s to be leaping around on stage anymore.
Yeah, but I do find that is a lot harder when you've got
the scissor splits,
the arthritis and the dislocated shoulders I've been through. I find everything harder because I feel you've got to be so much bigger and bolder and more exciting than you ever have been before. I should just kick back and grow a beard and not worry about it, I know. But I don't know, there's just this insane kind of gene in me about projection and visualization. I think it is harder to keep coming up with different lyrical ideas than musical. I genuinely believe that for all writers, really.
Well, 20 years on from the Holy Bible, the Manic Street Preachers continue to flourish as a band, and you're going to play us out with a live version of one of the songs which set you on that new course after the despair. So let me offer thanks to James Dean Bradfield, Nicky Wire and Sean Moore. Don't forget the Mastertapes website. There are full versions of the songs played live here and some bonus tracks. You can download all of the programmes from this and previous series, and you can tweet about the programme using the hashtag Mastertapes. But we leave you now with the Manic Street Preachers playing us out with Design for Life.
Libraries give us power. Then work came and made us free. What price now for a shallow piece of dignity? I wish I had a right here in my dirty face to wear the scars, to show from where I came. We don't talk about love. We only wanna get drunk. We are not allowed to spend, as we are told that this is the end. I designed for life. I designed for life. I designed for life. I design for life. Wish I had a bottle right here. last chorus is yours. Come on, rattle those brain cells.
Mastertapes with the Manic Street Preachers was presented by John Wilson and produced by Paul Cobrack.